The story of Titanic is arguably one of the most widely recounted stories. It was considered as the most unsinkable vessel, but it met its demise on its inaugural journey. This story has been recounted countless times, depicted in films, documentaries, and miniseries. Nevertheless, assertions have surfaced, challenging the conventional belief that the ship succumbed to an iceberg collision. Survivors have insisted that a more sinister force might have been responsible for the sinking. So what happened to Titanic, and what's the story behind the alleged cursed Egyptian mummy on board? Stay tuned to this video as we uncover how survivors of the Titanic asserted that the iceberg wasn't the cause of the ship's demise. Throughout the years, RMS Titanic, a British passenger liner, has persisted as an enduring symbol of tragedy and human loss. The catastrophic sinking during its inaugural voyage in April 1912 has ingrained itself in maritime history. At its launch, Titanic was lauded as the world's largest and most opulent ship, earning the moniker most unsinkable ship in the world. Constructed by the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Titanic represented an engineering marvel, featuring lavish amenities. On the night of April 14, 1912, Titanic, carrying over 2,200 passengers and crew, collided with an iceberg in the North Atlantic, approximately 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Despite receiving numerous iceberg warnings, the ship maintained high speed due to competitive PR pressures and the belief in its unsinkability. This collision inflicted fatal damage to the ship's hull, breaching multiple compartments. Contrary to expectations based on its watertight compartments, Titanic began taking in water. Unfortunately, the extent of the damage surpassed the ship's ability to remain afloat. The sinking prompted significant changes to maritime safety regulations, leading to the establishment of the International Ice Patrol and stricter safety standards for lifeboats. It also underscored the importance of effective communication systems and emergency procedures at sea. Titanic's wreckage remained undiscovered for decades, situated over 12,000 feet below the ocean's surface. In 1985, a joint American-French expedition led by Dr. Robert Ballard located the wreckage off the coast of Newfoundland, confirming its final resting place. Since discovery, numerous expeditions have explored and documented Titanic's remains, retrieving artifacts and contributing valuable insights to ongoing research and preservation efforts. Despite official reports attributing the shipwreck to a rogue iceberg, conspiracy theories ranging from a cursed mummy on board to insurance fraud by the White Star Line continue to circulate. A persistent conspiracy theory centers around the insurance policies of the ship. Some propose that the sinking of the Titanic was an elaborate insurance scam orchestrated by its owners, the White Star Line, to collect on the substantial insurance policies held on the vessel. According to this theory, the ship intentionally collided with an iceberg, allowing the owners to claim insurance compensation for the loss of the supposedly unsinkable ship. This theory has gained traction, especially in light of the fact that the owner of the shipping company survived the shipwreck on a lifeboat. Certain survivors even assert having seen tags on Titanic's dishware and furniture that belonged to another ship. Today, we will explore the most likely causes of the shipwreck, supported by survivors' testimonies. One of the most controversial and intricate theories about the Titanic was proposed by Robin Gardner in his book Titanic, the Ship That Never Sank. This theory revolves around an alleged switch with Titanic's sister ship, the RMS Olympic, which is claimed to be the ship that sank, not the Titanic. Gardner references various events and coincidences leading up to the sinking of the Titanic, spanning months, days, and hours. He posits that the ship that sank was the Olympic, disguised as the Titanic, in an insurance scam orchestrated by her owners, the International Mercantile Marine Group controlled by American financier J.P. Morgan. The Olympic, slightly older than the Titanic, was built alongside the more renowned vessel and launched in October 1910. Its exterior profile closely resembled that of the Titanic, with only minor details differing. Both ships initially had linoleum floors, but shortly before the Titanic was set to sail, J. Bruce Ismay, managing director of the White Star Line, inexplicably ordered the floors to be carpeted over. On September 20, 1911, the Olympic experienced a collision with the Royal Navy warship HMS Holkey in the Brambles Channel in Southampton water. The close proximity of the two vessels led to the Hawk being drawn into the Olympic's starboard side, resulting in extensive damage both above and below the waterline of the liner. Following the incident, despite numerous eyewitness accounts suggesting otherwise, an Admiralty inquiry attributed blame to the Olympic. This development laid the groundwork for Gardner's theory. The inquiry found the Olympic responsible for the collision, and Gardner asserted that it had caused damage to the central turbine mountings and bent the keel, resulting in a slight permanent list to port. Due to this determination, Lloyd's of London, White Star's insurers, purportedly declined the claim. The flagship of White Star would be out of commission during extensive repairs, impacting the already delayed completion date of the Titanic. The company faced a significant financial setback. Gardner suggests that, in order to ensure at least one vessel could generate revenue, the heavily damaged Olympic was repaired and converted into the Titanic. The actual Titanic, upon completion, would then enter service quietly as the Olympic. When the Titanic set sail from Southampton, it indeed displayed a list to port. Inadequate cargo and bunker trimming likely contributed, coupled with instances where the crew demonstrated a lack of proficiency. Several Titanic survivors, including Lawrence Beasley, noted the list in their accounts. This observation was supported by survivor Norman Chambers, who testified that post-collision there was a slight list to starboard, likely with a few degrees in pitch. Regarding the alleged true Titanic, Gardner claims it served 25 years as the Olympic and was dismantled in 1935, with no intention to harm those on board. If the plan had succeeded, the ship would have slowly sunk close to another vessel capable of rescuing the crew and passengers. So, what went awry? Gardner suggests the liner accidentally collided with a darkened rescue ship, mistaken by passengers and crew for an iceberg. This theory has gained traction due to peculiarities in the Titanic's voyage and its sister ships, with survivor testimonies fueling its credibility. Another remarkable tale from the Titanic shipwreck involves the purported presence of a cursed Egyptian mummy on board. Despite official records refuting a mummy's existence, certain survivors claim to have overheard discussions about a cursed mummy. Known as the Unlucky Mummy, it was transported from Egypt to Britain in the late 19th century. The eerie stories gained momentum after amateur archaeologist Thomas Douglas Murray and friends acquired the artifact. The night of the purchase saw one friend disappear, and shortly afterward, Murray suffered a firearm accident during a duck shooting expedition, resulting in a severely injured arm that ultimately required amputation. According to Montague Summers' extensive research, in the early 1900s, two servants who handled the mummy case died within a year, possibly due to inadequate respect. A third, who made jesting remarks, met a swifter and unfortunate fate, as recounted in various stories. Misfortune befell nearly everyone who encountered the mummy board upon its arrival in Europe. Miss Warhunt experienced such misfortune after receiving the artifact as a gift. Since the valuable item found its place under her roof, she suffered significant financial losses. Eventually, she became the individual who contributed the mummy case to the British Museum. As rumours circulated regarding the mummy's supposed curse, numerous journalists, including Bertram Fletcher Robinson, were prompted to investigate the nature of the artifact. Robinson reportedly verified some stories but tragically passed away before finalising his investigative findings. In the midst of the unfolding events, notable figures like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle entered the story. Doyle, contemplating Robinson's strange death, speculated on the possibility that Egyptian elementals guarding the female mummy, might be responsible. This twist in the story suggested Mr. Robinson's demise was linked to his exploration of the mummy's malevolence. Doyle had purportedly warned Robinson about the mummy, but the journalist persisted in his work. The writer acknowledged the immediate cause of death as typhoid fever, attributing it to the potential actions of the elementals guarding the mummy. Subsequently, the artifact's trail led to Murray and his friend, the renowned journalist William Stead, who tragically lost his life in the Titanic disaster. Like many others in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Murray held an interest in the paranormal. Hearing a story about a woman in England with a mummy imported from Egypt, he was intrigued. After displaying the mummy in her room, everything breakable in that space shattered the following day, a phenomenon that persisted regardless of the mummy's relocation in the house. This story drew Murray's attention back to the mummy case he brought from Egypt, now housed among the museum's possessions. Together with his journalist friend Stead, they examined the case's display in the museum, with Stead credited for some of the initial news coverage surrounding the mummy's curse. Having examined the artifact, they sensed that the expression on the cover's face mirrored that of a tormented living soul. Reportedly desiring to conduct a séance to alleviate the anguish from the coffin's eyes, the pair proposed the idea, but museum officials declined. In 1912, Stead found himself aboard the Titanic as a first-class passenger, his journey prompted by participation in a congress at Carnegie Hall, personally invited by President Taft. However, he was last observed reading a book in Titanic's first-class smoking room. Subsequent to his demise, a survivor's testimony surfaced, recounting Stead sharing the mummy case curse story on the Titanic days before the tragedy. Claims circulated that the British Museum allegedly sought to rid itself of the ill-fated item, planning to sell the mummy case to an American museum, leading to its presence on the Titanic. Supposedly, this was also a factor in the Titanic striking the iceberg and splitting into two. The caveat to this narrative arises from official records, indicating that the mummy was indeed in the museum when the Titanic sank. This prompts the question, what truly transpired with the Titanic? While the official iceberg collision report might be tempting to accept, it's wise to acknowledge that conspiracy theories often hold elements of truth. Thanks for watching the video. Please be sure to subscribe for more content.